Okay, I guess that is my cue. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So, folks, my name is Justina, and I will be your moderator for today's session. So, if you're having trouble hearing me, please let me know in the chat because my tech goes in and out. But welcome to one of the first events for the year for Intergenerational Conversations project here at the Youth Village. This event is titled From Idea to Reality, Overcoming Startup Obstacles. And so we will get to hear a lot of amazing stories from founders on uh, resilience, how they went from 0 to 100, the different obstacles they faced, the different resources and coping mechanisms, and even really community that they use to tackle those obstacles. So please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. I am joining from Toronto, currently at the University of Toronto in the entrepreneurship offices. So let us know in the chat where you're joining from. Introduce yourselves, add a link tree, a business card, so we know to connect with you beyond this call. And I ask that you mute your microphones just so we're not speaking over each other and we're all getting a chance to, share. And also, this event is being recorded. So please keep that in mind. And if that's of any discomfort to you, you're welcome to turn off your cameras. You're also welcome to engage with us throughout the session through the chat function. It should be at the bottom of your screen if you're using a desktop like I am. But we'll also have an interactive session more so towards the end where we get to have Q&As and questions from the audience, and you get to interact more with the panelists. And so to begin, I would like to share a land acknowledgement. And part of the reason why we're acknowledging the land is because this is a way to express gratitude to those who reside here and to honor the indigenous people who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently and have given us this opportunity to be in community with them on this land. And because I am calling in from the University of Toronto, I will read the traditional University of Toronto land acknowledgement. I wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, as this meeting is taking place, this is still land and home to many of the Indigenous people across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work and be in community on this land. And I imagine we're calling from different places. I look at the chat, we have folks calling from Mississauga, we have folks, let me just close this. We have folks from Montreal, from Oshawa, so really spread out across the country. But I welcome you to really reflect on the different lands that you're calling in from. What does that mean to you? How do you come to the land? I, for example, come to this land as an immigrant, as a settler. So just really recognizing the many resources we get to enjoy from the lands we're on. Part of which is, yes, the food and the air we're breathing, but also the people that we're working with on that land. So I invite you to really reflect on the different places that you're calling from. And at this point, I would like to pass it on to Deborah, who is the director of the Youth Village, to share a few words about the project.
You know, after so many years of Zoom meetings, we still make the mistake. You start to talk and your mic is not on. So I'll start again. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. And I just want to talk a little bit about the Youth Village and what we do. The Youth Village started in 2020. Actually, this is part of our initial programming that we are doing in conjunction with ACBN, and we have Ryan Knight from ACBN, and Ryan will get to say hello, and the Federal Development Corporation. And we are really providing a forum for young entrepreneurs, to get assistance through mentorship programs to get to develop in terms of And one of the things I should say about the youth village, an important element for us is that element of Afrocentricity. And we've developed programming around that. And that is, that's different from a number of the organizations offering assistance in entrepreneurship or mentorship in entrepreneurship, because we think community comes first. As the reason why it's the youth village, because it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village for us to do anything. It takes a village for us to be part of that, to be a community. So for us, the community is extremely important. And because of that structure, and because of that, we actually have an advisory council. And our advisory council, we have all volunteers, our board of volunteers, our advisors, our volunteers. I see Kenneth Tug, who's on our advisory council, and we operate as a collaborative in terms of providing that business facilitation and wraparound services for young entrepreneurs. As I said before, the intergenerational conversation, next slide. The intergenerational conversation is part of our programming. We will be rolling out to other programming. We are hoping to have funding to do a course in what we understand as Afrocentricity, the tenets of Afrocentricity, the tenets of looking back to be able to go forward. And we are seeking funding for that at the moment, but the intergenerational conversation is really our first programming in terms of funding, providing that connectivity. And for us, it really is important to have a conversation with young entrepreneurs and mature entrepreneurs, because as I said, we believe it's the community that brings us together. It's the community that is important. So the intergenerational conversation is meant to have that dialogue between established entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs who are now starting. As I think Mark would have said during his earlier before we start, that as a young entrepreneur is oftentimes difficult to find experience, to find that assistance that you need to be able to move forward. So the intergenerational conversation, it provides that forum where we blend different levels of experience and we learn from each other. Yeah, the other programming that is coming up that we've started is the mentorship program. And the mentorship program really loops in with the intergenerational conversation. The mentorship program is we link mentors and mentees. It is supposed to be a shared relationship. It's supposed to be a learning relationship. It's a relationship where we learn from each other. So it's not just one person just spewing information to another, but it's really a relationship where both parties contribute and both parties take away from it. And so this is our first conversation for year 2. We are really happy to continue this partnership with ACBN and the Federal Development Corporation. So thank you, and we look forward to we have an exciting panelist, and we look forward to an exciting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for that overview of the amazing work you're doing at the Youth Village. And I think throughout this conversation, you will see that at the core of how the founders, and even listening to different stories, how founders have been able to overcome obstacles has been because of community and because of the village. And so the work that's being done by the Youth Village is a very, very significant one. And so running through quickly today's agenda, we had the introductions already, and we're going to have a very brief founders panel. So I'm going to introduce the founders to you and give them an opportunity to give us their elevator pitch. So what do they do? How did they get started? And what are some of the key obstacles that they have faced? And then, because we're giving them 2 to 3 minutes to share that, we'll have time towards the end where we can ask more detailed questions, and the audience can ask more detailed questions as well. And so to kick it off with my own introduction, like I shared, I am Justina, and I am the founder of Okwera Recruitment, which is a recruitment firm that began sometime in 2021. And we've been connecting founders and companies to candidates and folks looking for work. And one of the key challenges we found in that process is because I'm always trying to prioritize Black talent and African talent because I am African, and Ubuntu is I am because we are. And so pulling my people up. But in that process, I found that there was a large skill gap, especially with folks in Africa and more particularly in Zambia when trying to recommend them to these job opportunities. And so instead of disqualifying them altogether, we have been looking for ways through Okwera Academy, which we're building out now, to make sure that they're well equipped with the right skills to work in tech as a career path, but also the same conversations we've been having, introducing entrepreneurship as a potential career path to them. And so, in addition to that, I'm also a program coordinator at the Black Founders Network, which is doing work very much in alignment with the work that the Youth Village is doing, pretty much connecting folks in our community to the right resources, to the right funding, capacity building, and community. And so we have four amazing panelists today. We have Tosin, who is a computer scientist who specializes in IT service delivery, end-to-end automation, settlements, financial technology, education, and telecommunications. He is also the founder of Welcome You, a platform that is focused on improving settlement experiences for newcomers to Canada. And he's very passionate about community service, early childhood education, and advocating for young entrepreneurs in the business. And we also have Odorzo, who is a two-time entrepreneur with over 5 years of experience in entrepreneurship, consulting, and business. And she is also a founder at Undercover Consulting, as well as Gia Health. And Gia Health is a platform that helps families manage and coordinate their in-home elder care using AI. And she's also passionate about health, wellness, and using corporations as a vehicle for social good. And then thirdly, we have Mark Donaldson, who is also a founder and CEO of Quantuity Analytics Incorporated, which is an AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning, and tiny ML. And imagine this is tiny machine learning because I've never heard of this one. Intelligent Edge IoT technology startup that helps the commercial transportation tracking industry. And he brings to the table over 25 years of experience in technology where he delivers solutions worldwide. He is also a TED speaker and volunteers to mentor young entrepreneurs and is passionate about engineering, tech, AI, and all things machine learning. And last but not the least, we have Nishetza Wright, Nisha for short, who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in photography and entrepreneurship. And she's also a successful veteran, award-winning photographer, content creator, author, speaker, wife, mom, multiple hats, and we love to see it. And she has been featured in publications such as USA Today, The Shed Room, which, if you know, you know, BuzzFeed, and many more. And her expertise has led her to create digital products such as the iPhone Photography Masterclass and global travels to capture memorable moments. So I will let the founders speak more to their experience, a couple of minutes or so for each. So starting with Tosin, give us your elevator pitch. What does your business do? What inspired you to start your business? And what is the name of your business? And what are some of the key obstacles you faced during the initial phases? So I know this is a lot of questions to try and condense in a couple of minutes or so, but Tosin, over to you, and then you can tag someone to pick it up.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Justina. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. Joining from Manchester, United Kingdom right now, but my base is New Brunswick, Fredericton on the East Coast. So of course, my name is Tosin, co-founder of Welcome You. Pretty much started that in 2020, and it was born out of a personal experience. So moving to Canada, I had so many friends. I moved to Canada from Nigeria in 2019 for my master's. I had so many friends around Canada, and they were telling me about the country, the beautiful things in their different cities. And that was a perception that I had of the city I was going to. So I was going to the East Coast while speaking to people that were either in Ontario or Montreal or in Vancouver. And I got there and the experience was super different. Like it was not really what I expected. So I needed a lot of help to kind of adjust to this new life this new adventure and this new journey that I had embarked on. And I have a computer science degree, and I figured we can actually just build an app or build something around giving out proper information according to the city that you're going to, the different services that are required, and pretty much starting that journey with you. Because something that a lot of times international students don't take into consideration is they're excited about their international studies. They're coming to a new country. They're happy that is a new adventure. But what life is going to look like in that new environment you're going to is pretty much an unknown in most cases, right? And how to navigate through all of that can be a whole lot sometimes. And you see that there's probably some depression going on. There's a lot of people who are not even sure if they made the right decision because they can access some of the services that they ideally should be able to. The non-essential things, the very little things that most people would overlook when they're trying to move into a new area. So we decided to build an app, and it's been quite a journey. Justin mentioned some of the hurdles we face as an international student. It was tough to kind of bring that idea to life because there were a lot of red tapes around starting a business based off your immigration status, irrespective of the value that you were looking to provide. There's a lot of those hurdles that we had to cross. Funding was also a really, really, really big issue. Like we had so many cases where we pitched our businesses to a lot of people and they were super excited about it. But as an international student who was on a temporary visa, they weren't really willing to be part of it. So of course, man, there's a lot of frustration that can come with that. And I sort of overcame that by the kind of network that I built. And networking is something that is super, super, super important as an entrepreneur, and also, in fact, a newcomer or a minority entrepreneur, because there's a lot of wealth that it goes around, and it's super, super tough because we're not really taught a lot of this from a very young age. And building a network is something that is super, super important to do. So I was able to kind of overcome some of these challenges by building my network, trying to meet the right people, trying to speak to as many people as I can, ask for help. I'll say that's something that kind of helped me on my journey. So yeah, there's definitely been some barriers, some red tapes along the way, but mentorship and the kind of network that I try to put myself in is kind of what helped me throughout that process.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tosin, for that introduction. Would you like to tag someone?
Yes. So I'll tag Edo.
Listen, hi everyone. My name is Edo. I'm the founder of Gia Health as well as Undercover Consulting. My main thing right now is Gia. So at Gia, we help families find and manage their in-home elder care, eventually using an AI component. We are pre-launch, so we haven't put the product in market yet, but we're building out the software, getting our initial customers and stuff like that. I've had a little bit of a history with entrepreneurship. I went to school for nursing, so I'm really in the health and wellness field. I had an e-commerce like hair extensions brand for 3 years during school. And during those 3 years of like working on this business and learning about entrepreneurship and business, it was super important for where I am today. I think like even just tinkering with things and figuring things out and not really knowing, not even having a huge budget can be really great as a way to start with entrepreneurship, because you become really scrappy and you become really resourceful. So just like a small message is you don't need a huge budget to start your entrepreneurial journey. Work with what you have. I love to like work with the materials that I have, the things you have. If you have a phone, you have a wealth of resources. If you can read, you're far ahead of the game. So like using whatever you have is really great. Yeah, right now at GIA, we're focusing on, like I said, building out the product, um, really learning about, what kind of problems can we solve that haven't been solved already, and things like that. I think, when we're moving into entrepreneurship, it's so exciting to like, let's build this product and put it out there, but like we need to focus on who we're trying to serve and like what problems people are having and just really leaning into that. Because when you look into problems, you can really create amazing solutions, but you got to start with the problem. So a little bit about me. Sorry if I gave too much advice too early on, but
No, we love it.
but yeah, I'd like to pass it on if I can.
Absolutely.
Okay, to Sophia. Did you go? You went. Mark.
Okay, all right, I'll take the torch. Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Donaldson. I am the founder and CEO of Quantity Analytics. What inspired us to start the business was a failure. And we had applied to a program. We got past the first round, second round. We didn't make it past the third round. And them telling us no knew exactly what my yes was. So what we do is we design and manufacture artificially intelligent smart sensors for the commercial trucking industry. Our sensors allow the commercial trucking industry to save 30 to 45 minutes on a pre-trip inspection. We exceed regulatory compliance. We improve driver and vehicle safety, and we can also do predictive maintenance to know when brakes need servicing. We have other technology solutions in the pipeline, and we're working with IP Ontario to help deliver those as well. What obstacles did we face during the initial stages? You name it, we faced it. Funding, networking. But I always try to say I don't like to be the smartest person in the room. So we applied to the DMZ Startup Incubator, and we incubated through the Supply AI stream last year for 2022. That led us to finish validating our technology solution in November and filing a provisional patent in December. So that was the smart move. We got into the Black Innovators program, where they gave us a $10,000 grant and then a $5,000 grant through DMZ Ventures. So with that money, we were able to get that far. And because we had established a network that was built around the DMZ, we were able to get much farther than we would have on my own. And that was my initial strategy going right into a startup. I think some of the other obstacles or challenges of being a startup founder of color is sometimes people, they don't take you seriously or they don't see you coming. Sometimes they will look at my engineer who's South Asian and they'll think he's the one doing everything. So it's just an assumption, right? If you're Indian, you're smart, you know these things. But I'm the design engineer and everything, the brains behind the patent. I've also mentored him as well to learn embedded software programming. So that comes back to my background. So I have a college diploma in electronics engineering technology, and I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree in business technology management. I also have a minor in Chinese language and culture studies, so I can communicate fluently in Chinese Mandarin. And that has been, all of that has been extremely valuable and extremely helpful in allowing me to do what I do and to communicate the way that I communicate to get things done. I have a very high bias towards action. So thought, act, done. The other thing too is that having a very good, strong network allows you to get the confidence that you need to keep moving forward. Everyone's heard of imposter syndrome. We've probably experienced it at some point in our lives, but people of color find some of these barriers really, really high. And for me, it was a way of validating what I knew, what I didn't know, and the gaps that I had to fill in order to get this far with my business. So why am I here today? I like to give back. And I've been mentoring for 15 years. That was part of my TEDx talk as well. The power and value of mentorship. Nobody is an island unto themselves, and no one's a self-made anything. It takes a village to make people, and it takes good people to make even better people. So I've been volunteering with the Society of Automotive Engineers for people of color there. I've volunteered for new immigrants to Canada when I was at CIBC. And I also mentor with the City College of San Francisco for students there for their capstone project. So yeah, that's a bit about me in about 4 minutes. And I will pass the torch on to Nishaza.
Do we still have Nisha on the call?
Yeah, she's still on the call, but she's on mute. I'm not sure.
She's still on the call. She's on mute or she's off camera at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, no, absolutely. We will get back to Nisha, but thank you for such amazing introductions. I was taking notes. I have multiple questions myself to follow up because that's such a vast array of experiences and industries, and I imagine there's so much for folks here to learn. But instead of doing that, I will open it up to Q&A from the audience. So anyone with a question, you can raise your hand and come off mute. You can add it in the chat. We'll shut up for a few seconds and allow someone else to take up space for a few seconds. Any questions from the audience? Okay, so while folks think of the questions, are grants the way to go? So maybe this is more so a general questions for the panelists, right? Because as you mentioned, one of the key challenges, especially when you're the earliest stages, is finding the right funding, because a lot of them, the VCs, the equity firms, the family offices, they're capitalizing for folks with traction. So when you're at the very earliest of stages, Edo, you talked about working with what you have, and part of what you have is perhaps your 9-to-5 income, but how did you find your experiences with grants? What resources did you use to find the right granting and really just strengthen your granting applications?
I can answer that one. So for my last business, it was a hair extensions brand. I probably raised about in grants and pitch competitions, maybe around $60,000 or $70,000. And that was really important with like building the foundation of the business. I think it depends. So Glory, what industry are you in? Let's start there.
I'm in finance and web designing.
Okay, cool. So with a lot of businesses, it can go like many different ways. So sometimes it does make sense to, go with investors, but bootstrapping and like having as much non-dilutive funding, so funding that doesn't take away equity in your company, can be very beneficial, short and long term. So with grants, the thing is you have to have really strong positioning, and you really have to follow their requirements. It's really tempting to kind of go outside and tell elaborate stories with like grants and really paint certain pictures, but following what they're looking for and really following what, the company that is granting stands for is really crucial with like setting a really good grant application. Grants can be really great in terms of having money to not stress so much about in terms of like paying it back like a loan. But there are requirements with reporting, and you have to definitely be mindful of how you're spending it. It is like free money in a way, but it's not free. You're still exchanging something in for the cash. Grants are really great, especially for startups. They can, give you some things to work with to get to the next stage. But again, always proceed with caution there.
Absolutely. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? And even piggybacking on what Edo mentioned is, yes, the grants that are coming from NGOs, but you also want to target, there's a lot of pitch competition. So if you're still in university, for example, a lot of these universities have hubs that are entrepreneurial and they have some funding towards getting people bootstrapped and off their feet. So you want to look out for that. But also going to put in the chat one resource that I have personally found very helpful. It's called Happy AI. And what they do, it's pretty much a database. I think I sent it to the wrong person. I will try that again. It is a database that has maybe not all, but over 500 funding sources that you can filter through depending on the stage that you're at, depending on what you're looking for, depending on how much you're looking for, and etc. So there's a few resources out there, and this I would say is a great starting point. But in line with the funding question is another question from Deborah, which is any one of the four founders on the panel today VC backed? Are you sourcing a fund from a venture capital fund? Anyone?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to take up too much space.
Go for it. Go for it.
So I have had offers from venture capital firms for my current business. But I did not take them because again, all money comes with certain terms. And not all money is good money, y'all. I'm telling you that. Yeah, I've had offers, but I haven't secured any deals. I've talked to a couple of investors, venture capitalists, but nothing has been secured on my end. And it is a long process. Like I heard that it can be like 6 months of like fundraising from venture capitalists.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, sorry,
okay.
I can just jump in quickly. So yes, I think that is super right. I think it's actually a great sequence the way the questions came. So one thing I always ask is depending on the type of business that it is, how they need to chase grants. Yeah. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, it's breaking a little
Not
bit.
very well. It's breaking up.
Yes.
It's kind of, yeah, and you're kind of the soft end.
Oh, okay, okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I'll project a lot more. Yes. Yes. So grant, I think depending on the type of business it is, especially if you don't require so much upfront capital to start your business, I think the best way to go is to try and get as much non-dilutive funding as you can. Like the first ever 25,000 that we got was in grant funding. So we didn't have to give away any piece of the business, and it was from an incubator on the East Coast. So there are lots of opportunities like that. And I mean, over time, I started to uncover a lot of them. I mean, Pocketed was one of the organizations that I've been in contact with. I only knew them last summer, right? So it's a lot of research that has to go into that. But for VC funding, I think it's pretty much like a marriage, because once you get into it, it's super, super tough to get out of it. And you have to also make sure that the investors that you're speaking to are people who align with your goals that you have for yourself. Because just like Edo, we've also turned down some VC money before because we realized that the direction the company was going to go, right? Having that money brought into the company would probably be different from the goals we had, right? And probably would derail us from the purpose that we were trying to achieve as an organization. So yes, not all money is actually good money. And at very early stages in your business, it's very, very advisable to stay away from VCs, because you might get into a bad deal at the time that might not be the best thing for your company. You might give away too much of your company because of the stage you're in, right? So it's always very advisable to have some form of traction before you go into, before you actually even start any conversation with VCs. The best way to go as a very early founder will always be either grants or angels, right? Or the other funding techniques like the SAFE, right? The safe agreement of future equity. You can also look into that as well to start at the early stages of your business. The VC funding is an interesting journey. It's almost like a 6 months to 8 months, depending on what the economy is like. Right now, it will definitely take individual founders almost a year to raise a round. So VC funding is interesting, but if you don't have to get it, honestly, I don't think you should go that route.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for that, and thank you for that, Tosin, as well as Edo. So that brings me to another question, again, funding related, and I'll tackle some of the questions related to mentorship and guidance in the chat in a bit, because I find funding is a big barrier because you need money to, operate to a large extent, but especially looking at us as immigrants, as people of color who are trying to live life in a very expensive country, an expensive city like Toronto. Like you're trying to, you end up having to keep your 9 to 5 to supply your livelihood and etc. And sometimes even that on itself is not enough to fund your business. So the two questions, the one question I have really is, it's a sweet spot to be in where you can reject VC money, you can reject bad money and money from organizations that are not in alignment with the long-term objectives and even values of your company. But how do you get yourself to the point where you are investment ready? And by investment ready, not just from VC firms, but also even grants, even loans. Loans are one thing to leverage, because a lot of these banks, like RBC, for example, will have RBCX, which is Black Business Focused. But how do you get yourself to a point where you are the shiny object for investors to even approach, and you're even in the position to say no to them? So I imagine that's a lot of capacity building, but I'll let you tackle it. And this
If I
is a
could,
question to the general.
yeah.
Yeah, you
I'd
can
be
go,
happy to
Mark.
respond. That's a really great question, and a lot of Black-owned startups have that's their biggest barrier, and that has been supported by evidence-based research. The number one barrier for Black businesses in Canada is funding. Sometimes you're just invisible to banks. Sometimes you're like the worst customer to a bank if you do get one. It's not a pleasant experience, unless you're making money. So I have a background. I used to be a licensed mutual fund, licensed insurance dealer as well. And so money is a big thing for me. And the way to make yourself most attractive to banks and investors is when you have validated your business model. So where does this come from? I used while I was finishing my undergrad, I did the research about doing a startup then, because I wanted to prepare to do this after. So the Startup Owner's Manual by Steve Blank and Bob Dorff is what I highly recommend, because I don't want to be the smartest person out there. So I look at a repeatable, evidence-based approach to building a startup that scales. So you have to validate your customers with paying revenue. Paying revenue is the validation of your business model. When your customer issues a purchase order, which is a legal document of I'm exchanging goods for money, that's when you validate your business, and you'll be the most attractive to a bank. With a purchase order, you can walk into a bank and get the funding necessary to, and the loans necessary to hire employees, buy equipment, product, merchandising. Whatever you need will be a lot easier once you validated your business model. At the DMZ, they recommend that we don't seek any funding until we have done that. We have paying customers, we have validated our business model, they like the product, they continue to scale, they have at least 2 or 3 orders in the pipeline before we do that. So it's not I've seen other people literally beg for money. You don't want to do that. You never want to make a product for a customer that doesn't exist. Instead, you want to make yourself that beautiful flower that attracts the honey, which is the money you want. So that's my take.
That's a very good one. And you're a couple of steps ahead, because we have a rapid fire towards the end where I was going to ask everyone for their book recommendations. So thank you for dropping that Bob Dorff book. Okay, amazing. We have about 5 minutes to, I'm going to say 2-3 minutes to wrap up this section. So I'll tackle one question, and thanks, Mark, for getting ahead of it. The question on advice and guidance. So what is the next best step, the next best alternative, I guess, in the absence of a mentor to get advice or guidance? So Mark shared, if you look in the chart, that one great way is through biographies of founders related to your industries. And I guess the focus, the sectors you are looking to get into for your startup or venture. And I imagine reading is one way as well, right? Because you get to hear people's success stories and events like this, right? Because perhaps some of us wouldn't have had access to a Mark or an Edo or a Tosin to hear stories from and to get guidance from. So really looking out for organizations like the Youth Village that are running these workshops, and you get the chance to network, because we've heard from Tosin and Mark and Edo that one of the biggest pieces to getting yourself out there and overcoming obstacles is networking and community. So this would be one way. I'll tackle one last question from the chat before heading over to the rapid fire. From Deborah: has anyone explored franchising as a modality for expansion? And let's keep it short and sweet.
And
No.
I mean, I think it's a great model depending on the type of business. And it's also one way to scale rapidly, but it's also a way that you have to make sure that it's controlled, right? The quality of whatever product or service you're offering is the standard is kept where it's going. That's pretty much very high level info around franchising, but there's a whole lot more that goes into it for sure. But it's not the light in which we're going, so I don't have so much info around it. But the quality of the product is something that if you want to franchise, you have to make sure that whoever it is that is picking up that business in that region or that location also has shares the same values and same standard in terms of your business.
Yeah, if I can respond to that,
Yeah.
I think I can see where the question might be coming from. It's just a guess, but a majority of Black-owned businesses and businesses owned by immigrants are what they call cash over the counter or cash turnover. And a lot of those businesses are conducive to becoming franchises, like distributing North America wide, nationwide, and so on, because you can simply repeat the model and deploy it through franchising. Franchising is a really great way to grow your business, but you have to have your IP strategy nailed down solid in terms of how you're going to protect your intellectual property. To do that, quality, quantity, branding, you have to consider all of those things. And the next part is you have to manage those things, even though they're part of a franchise. So you want to make sure that it's fully baked and ready to be uh, repeated with documentation. Like I said before, IP strategy has to be there so that way you can do that.
Thank you, thank you. And I imagine another piece is also it's the branding, right? If you're franchising and duplicating one thing, you have to make sure you're further along enough to first, like Tosin mentioned, control for it, and second, as Mark mentioned, ensure that your IPs and proprietaries are all in order, but you also have strong enough branding to maintain the standard so that if I go to a GIA Health in another region, it's still GIA Health, right? Even though it's owned and operated by different individuals. Nesha is back, so I'll give her a couple of minutes to introduce herself and give us your elevator pitch. Nesha, welcome back. What's the name of your business? What do you do? What's your founding stories? And what are the top two obstacles you have faced? In 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you so much, Justina. Sorry for the delay, you guys. I'm super excited to be here. I am Nishazda Wright. I am a professional wedding photographer. I've been a photographer for 8 years. When I got out the military, I was in the military for a term. And when I got out the military, I said, I'm not going to do anything that I'm not passionate about, because I feel like if you're doing something that you're not passionate about every day, you're like kind of throwing your days away in the fire. So I decided to do something that I'm passionate about. I prayed. I was like, Lord, what should I do next? And he said, do photography. So I was like, wow, I do like doing photography, actually. So I did it, and I've been doing it for 8 years. I love what I do. I have children. So when Youth Village reached out to me, I have children myself, ages 6 and 7. So I was super passionate about the youth because they are truly the future. So yeah, I am currently making 6 figures with my business with photography. And it's mainly because I strategized and honed in on a niche, which was wedding photography. People still invest in wedding photography. People still love wedding photography because it's one thing that happens one time. So that's exactly what I wanted to be, to offer to my clients is a once in a lifetime experience. So that's exactly what I do. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Nesha. And I'm sorry, it was all last minute. I would
No,
have
no
gone
problem.
through some of these questions that we asked, but the founders did a great job of sharing. So we will head over to the rapid fire, and I'll have other founders unmute their mics so you can quickly say one-word answers, one word or a sentence or two. And this is to make it more interactive and fun. But and we're not going to do Mark for this question because Mark has already answered this question. What's a book or movie every founder should read?
The Secret.
Lean startup too.
So The Secret from Nesha, that's a book or movie?
Yes, it's a book. It's a book.
Okay. The Secret.
Profit.
Tosin.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put mine in the chat as well, but mine was the lean startup.
Ah, okay. My colleague if also loves that one and is always recommending it. So definitely profit
Profit
first.
first.
We are about to finish.
Profit first. Amazing, amazing. We have those in the chat, so add them to your bookshelves or your virtual bookshelves. In a word or two, what's the most important quality for a founder?
Tenacity and
Consistency.
resilience. Consistency. Yeah, that's a good one.
Consistency.
I say
Yeah.
tenacity, grit, resilience.
Well,
I think God's feeling is actually one of it
is
as
it working?
well.
Thank you.
God's feeling. Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
have
Intuition. Yeah. Intuition.
have to.
Amazing, amazing. And I think this will be my last one because I know entrepreneurship is not easy, and there's the added intersectionality of being Black entrepreneurs, and for some of us, female entrepreneurs, and also immigrant entrepreneurs. So the stress that comes with it, I imagine, is yeah, indescribable. But what are one or two coping mechanisms you use to handle stress?
You must set boundaries.
Boundaries, yes.
You must set
Prayer. I pray. I pray a lot. So prayer definitely helps me stay calm, peaceful.
Exercise and meditation. Sweat as much as possible.
Yeah.
Amazing. So
For me,
prayer, meditation, exercise, Mark.
same. I do calisthenics at home, lots of prayer. I do downtime to do something completely unrelated to anything related to my business. So it's like complete this diversion. So that helps me.
Amazing, amazing. So it's all about the balance. And maybe this one you can put in the chat. So I give an opportunity for Deb to share some closing remarks. Unless we have a few more minutes, I'll let the Youth Village team let me know if we have a few more minutes to answer one or two more questions. Otherwise, question to the founders, and we can answer this in the chat so folks can have it visual. But one or two ways to stay innovative and up to date on industry trends. Because this is an important one. As a founder serving folks in a certain industry, you have to make sure that you know what's going on in the industry. So, what are some of those resources, platforms that you use?
For me,
TikTok.
sorry. For me, resources I use, I attend webinars. If I see it, I jump on it. Even if I'm working, it's there. I just attended an in-person thing with a ST Micro, one of our suppliers. So you've got to get out there and ingest a lot of what's happening in your industry, so you're always plugged in. And of course, I read a lot of publications as well, and podcasts are good too.
What's your favorite podcast, Mark?
It's related to IoT, but yeah, it's the Stacey Higginbottom's. It's the Things podcast, I think is what it's called. I really like her take on IoT, and sometimes I listen to a lot of motivation stuff as well. Chispa motivation, sometimes Jocko Willink, but I like listening to some of the motivational stuff because it allows me to set my mind in a certain frame so I can just keep moving forward.
Love it.
So for me, I would say TikTok because I'm a photographer. So I got to know like the new current trends, like the new music, like I guess the new aesthetics that people are going for. So TikTok really helps me out. And it does attract a lot of my clientele and brand deals for my business. So definitely TikTok and Instagram for me.
Okay.
Amazing. Nesha, give us the plug. Put your handles in the chat. We wanna watch your TikToks.
Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, so for me, I'll say being part of different communities, just like the Youth Village. Also, I mean, I heard Mac mention the DMZ a whole lot. Also part of that DMZ community. There's just so many events, there's so many trends, so many opportunities that group puts out, and there's so many more right around the country. So pretty much figuring out the one that is in your industry, subscribing to their newsletters, right? Seeing something really interesting and trying to be part of it. Just like Mark as well, I register for a lot of these webinars and I just have them playing. right? Sometimes I don't even concentrate fully on them, and I hear something that catches my attention, and then I'm like, okay, you know what?
Same.
Okay, this, take this out. So honestly, the value I get from some of these things is probably 5, 10 minutes, right? Or just a line or two that maybe one of the panelists or people spoke about, and I hold on to that for a long time, right? So that's pretty much how I try to stay up to date with the current trends, what is happening in my market, in different markets that probably affect my business, even from a regulatory standpoint as well, right? Because we're working with newcomers, so we really want to know what's going on with immigration, even though we don't have anything to do with immigration specifically, right? Want to know what those numbers are, want to know what those streams are and how people are coming in. So those are things that you have to look out for, not just your business, all the things surrounding your business that will make it successful are areas that you have to look into.
Thank you.
I think one thing that, like, when we're building things that we might forget is talking to the people we're serving. There's so many times when I talk to like a potential customer and they'll be like, oh yeah, another company by the name of this and this actually called me up and they proposed this solution to me. And then I'll look into the company and then I'll find a whole new different trend, like a completely different perspective of how they do business and go into that. So like the people that you're actually serving hold a lot of value. Without businesses, without customers, you do not have a business. So customers, are on that first, they're getting the first like hand of things, so really tapping into your customer knowledge and speaking to the people that you're serving can get you ahead of trends, or you can actually see trends from what people are saying too.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I heard once of the pestel, the PESTEL module, and it's mostly for market research, but also this is a good way to stay on top of the market trends, right? So for P, you have political, what's going on with the government, because that impacts what's going on with your business. You think of taxes, you think of regulations, and then for E, you have economics. So if you have an international market, for example, you're thinking exchange rates, you're thinking inflation rates, you're thinking interest rates, and etc. And then for S, you have social. So in Nesh's case, if you're in the social media world, you want to see what's trending on social media, what are people's attitudes and consciousness towards different lifestyles, different cultural barriers, etc. And then for T, you have technology. What's the trending technology? What some productivity tech that I can use, and what some of the levels of innovations, automations, technology changes in awareness I need to be up to date on. And then for E, you have and so for E, you also have environmental. So what's going on with my environment? What's the environmental climate? What's the weather like? If you're working with photography, for example, you don't want, I guess you could take pictures when it's raining, but you want to be up to date on those specific trends. It sounds very trivial, but it's also very important to the different factors that's going to be impacting your business. And then L is legal. So laws, employment laws, consumer protection laws, copyright, you talk IP, you talk patent, you talk proprietary, and etc. And this has been a lovely session. So if it were up to me, I would go on for another hour or so, but unfortunately, it must come to an end. All good things must come to an end. And so I just want to thank you. Thank you for being such an engaging panel, especially the panel. I know we have so much work. You have so much, work going on with your businesses. So thank you for carving out the time. And I'll let Deb say a lot more on the thank you remarks. And I'll put in the chat a couple of resources, and if there's after webinar resources, I imagine the Youth Village team will send them out to you. But I'll put especially two resources that I would encourage folks to look at, one of which is the Federation of Black Canadian Black entrepreneurship program across the country, because they're specifically targeting folks who are from 16 to 39 years old who just want to get started on entrepreneurship. So one-on-one entrepreneurship training, mentorship, and you also get to access those grants and pitch competitions we had talked about of up to 5K, and also the Black Founders Network, which is a shameless plug because that is where I work, but we're helping entrepreneurs get their foot in different doors, get started, and that will be linked in the chat as well. But thank you so much, and I will give it up to Deborah to give some closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Justina. Wow, this was an amazing session. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the panelists. Their panel discussion, as Justina said, I could go on. I could easily be listening for another hour or so. This has been amazing session. So I just want to say thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Edo. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Nisha. Thank you to Sina. The exchange of ideas, the sharing of information, it was fantastic. And I just want to say, as I say, thank you to everyone for attending. You've been great in terms of the questions asked and in terms of the audience and participation. I would be remiss if I don't say a major thank you to Aaliyah. I'm not sure if Aaliyah wants to come off camera. Aaliyah has been the person who has put this all together. We at the Youth Village, we are really privileged and honored to have Aaliyah on our team. She's done a fantastic job in pulling this together. So all kudos to Aaliyah. If we can just all give her the clap at this moment, that would be great. So thank you, Aaliyah, for doing this. And thank you, participants. You've been fantastic. And once again, thank you to the panelists. It was informative. It was engaging. It was inspiring. And yes, so I would be remiss if I don't mention we're having our next session is going to be on May 17th. The speed networking for Black entrepreneurs. So please look out for that. You'll be receiving information on that. Tell a friend, spread the word. If you enjoyed this session, not only are we asking you to do to fill out the feedback and give us, fill out the survey and give us some feedback, but we're also asking you to tell a friend, to spread the word, to let's really form a community that is participating in this transfer of knowledge as we discuss on the challenges that we have as Black entrepreneurs, as Black young entrepreneurs within Canada. So thank you so very much. And I'll just turn it over to Justina just for one final wrap up.
Yes. We were going to give some gifts to folks who registered first, but I don't know if we're still doing that. I'll defer to Avalia and the team just because I know we're running over time.
Yeah, so we just want to, I'm not sure if Aaliyah is going to come on camera, but we just want to do, do you have the information to do the gift sharing, Justina?
No, I do not have that information.
Okay. So what we will do is that we will actually have a lottery and you will be receiving information from us in terms of, and actually here's the wheel going now. And Aaliyah has just brought it online so we can start the wheel process. Chantal Smith. Congratulations, Chantal Smith. Congratulations.
Do we even have Chantal in the meeting today? I don't think so.
Okay, you want to try that again, Aaliyah? Chantal is not here with us at the moment.
Kishona. Amazing. Kishona is not here, but I did see her earlier. I don't know if you want to save that for them.
That would be great. We can do that. And are we going to do one more?
Because there's about 20 of them, huh? If we could just get Aaliyah.
So what we will do is that we will send you an email. We will do a sort of lottery system and just write, because we have your email information, and we will write to you and let you know what your gift is. So thank you, Justina, for doing that.
Absolutely. And thanks to the Youth Village team for putting it together and for having us. But yeah, we'll say our goodbyes. And if folks want to connect offline, and you can just put your LinkedIn in the chat so we know how to reach you and do the networking we've been preaching about today. Otherwise, I wish everybody an amazing evening.